commodity is an interchangeable item that can be exchanged for another similar item in business, i.e. it doesn't matter where you get it because essentially it's the exact same thing. So a commodity might be something like a bag of apples you buy in one shop or in another shop, or it might be a barrel of oil, or it might be a unit of service that you can get. So for example, my wife would normally go shopping. She goes because she thinks I have to go twice, I don't do it right. But she goes to Aldi normally, and this weekend she went to Dunn's for some reason, and she has not shut up about it since, because in her view the service wasn't good and she couldn't really see the benefit in going back to Dunn's versus Aldi. So she was not impressed. So in her view, Aldi and Dunn's were interchangeable, except really that Dunn's, it was more expensive, so she couldn't see the point in going back to it. So what we don't want essentially is to be looked on like that in our clinic.
Hi, Randy.
So why should you care? Well, when your podiatry clinic is seen as a commodity, it means that there's no particular reason to see your clinic over any other clinic, and therefore it's very difficult to attract and to maintain or to keep patients other than by being cheap or being close by. Okay, so what you'll end up doing is you'll end up attracting the kind of patients who do not value your service.
Can you guys let me know that you can hear the sound quality okay? There's no hiss or fuss or buzz or anything?
You end up with a clinic full of patients who essentially what they're looking for is just the cheapest service, just like my wife today going shopping. They tend to be non-compliant patients. They tend to be the kind of patient when you see them in the diary, you kind of groan because you know what you're going to have to go through, that nothing keeps them happy. They tend to complain quite a lot. And they would be what we would kind of term type C and type D patients. And they're not the kind of patients I want to be dealing with all day, every day. Because they simply think, well,
hi Patricia, can you just tell me, is the sound quality coming through okay? Can you just give me a thumbs up, Patricia?
Or if you're closer, or if you can get me in straight away, or
hi Nav, how's things?
Whatever reason.
Yeah, and great. And is it crystal clear, Dave?
To compromise the reason, your treatment, your service, your quality of care, to keep them happy. So that's why you should care. You should not.
Great, thank you.
In my opinion, you should try to make sure that your clinic and your service is not looked on as a commodity, i.e. it's interchangeable with any other clinic. Now, when you speak to podiatrists, most of them think that the people they're competing with are other podiatry clinics. It isn't really. In the patient's heads, it's any clinic. Podiatry, physio, chiropractor, osteopathy, they don't really care that much. So we're competing with them all. So you want to make sure that they're not looked on as a commodity.
I don't know how to fix the merge screen.
Among all of those types of clinics. So why do patients see us as a commodity?
You know, the recording will be up for all of this.
The reason we see it as a commodity is because we as a profession have let them do so. We constantly undersell ourselves as medical professionals. So we don't sell ourselves very well across to other medical professionals and to our patients and to each other to a degree, I feel. We don't bother to learn how to market ourselves better because it comes down to marketing. So how we're looked on by other people really comes down, a significant part of that comes down to how we market ourselves.
How's things?
Because we don't think we need to, because we think
okay,
that all
Dave,
the patients we care about
every day's a learning day.
That we just need to be qualified or registered. So there's a hope out there that when CORU comes along, because we'll be CORU registered and maybe others won't, that will set us apart. But the truth is that patients really don't care. They only care about themselves, which they should do. We seem to think that all we need to be is good clinically. Now, obviously, we do need to be clinically, but your patient can't judge whether you're good clinically or not. So they need to know more than that. You need to. So if you're depending on being qualified, being registered, or being good clinically to set yourself apart in the eyes of your patient, that's not going to work, I'm afraid, because they look on us all the same. And I think that we tend to, as a profession, we don't act like we're confident medical professionals to others, including to other medics, patients, and to each other. You know what I'm talking about. When you meet certain professionals, they are quite confident, they cocky even. And I think that sometimes that as a profession, put across that air. We need to kind of say, yeah, we're podiatrists, we're really good medical professionals, and you should look on us as different to everyone else because these are the reasons why, and we're very good at what we do. So we often let ourselves be seen as simple corn or toenail cutters, even though that's not the truth, and we don't believe that to be the truth. We perhaps can do so by certain things that we do in the clinic, how we market ourselves, how we present ourselves, our pricing, and so forth. So being a commodity is not a good idea. So what are the benefits of not being seen as a commodity? Well, if you're not seen as a commodity, i.e. something that is interchangeable that I can get in any clinic, then it's only beneficial to you. For example, you can demand higher prices. And I know Justin's going to talk about pricing, but demanding higher prices means you have more profit. You can put that back into your business. You can get better quality staff. You can deliver better quality services and so forth. So you get to attract type A and type B patients rather than type B or C and D who are non-compliant and tend to give out. You get to run a more profitable practice. You get a better place to thrive in a challenging economic times, just as such as we have. We get to attract those. You, as a result, will have a better quality of life because there's less stress. So you get to pick and choose what kind of career you get to have, and who you deal with, and what price you want for the service that you provide. You're not in a race to the bottom. So how can we make sure that we're looked on not as a commodity? Okay, so there's a few things you can do. So there is hope. You can certainly do this. First thing is charge more. So if you charge more, even if you're expensive, if you appear to be expensive, then you will naturally be looked on as different as everyone else. And we see that when it comes to any kind of product or service, that people tend to use a shortcut that if it costs more, it must be better. Therefore, I'm going to want it more. You look at people who queue up overnight to watch or to buy an iPhone, or people who want to go on holidays to certain destinations, they'll pay more for certain things. So if you charge more, if you're even expensive, you will tend to stand out from the crowd and be looked on as a separate entity, which is better quality and aspirational for the patient. If you create treatment packages, and what I mean by that is, if a patient rings you up and they're looking for an appointment, really, they tend to ask you the price. And the reason they ask you the price is because they can't figure out how else do I discern whether I should go to your clinic versus the next clinic. So they'll ask you how long your appointment is and what the price is. And that's how they're trying to compare. They're trying to compare apples to apples. Whereas if you deliver your treatment in a package of care, so instead of treating one appointment at a time, maybe if you treat as a package of treatment that I will resolve your issue over X number of time, you might call it a gold package or platinum package, and Justin will probably go touch on this later on. It makes it harder for the patient to kind of look on you as something that's interchangeable with another clinic somewhere else. If you deliver exceptional non-clinical customer service, again, that sets you apart from your competitors. So we all tend to focus on just delivering good quality clinical service, as we should, but the patient they can't discern, is this good quality clinical service or not? They don't really understand what clinically is going on in your head and how what reasoning is for it. But what they can discern is how your clinic is presented. Are you open late? Are you available on a Saturday? Can I book online? When I come in, is a nice friendly receptionist who offers me a cup of tea or a coffee? Is the magazines in date? They're not 6 months old. That kind of stuff. Another way to set yourself apart is dress to impress. So I see a lot of podiatrists at the moment putting on that they're wearing clogs, or they're wearing Crocs, and to me that's not setting yourself up as a exceptional quality medical consultant. I can't imagine personally going to see an orthopedic surgeon and he's wearing clogs, and so he's wearing a shirt and tie and a suit, and he looks impressive. He looks like he knows what he's doing, and straight away what you're wearing and how we present ourselves and our clinic will reflect back on the patient. These guys know what they're doing. The place looks expensive, and it must be expensive. Therefore, shortcut to them is, this is not the same as any other clinic I've been to. These must be better. Another way to make sure you stand apart is to combine services. So maybe what you'll do is you'll have a physiotherapist in your clinic, or an acupuncturist or whatever, and by providing a combination of services which is similar to the creating treatment packages, it makes it harder to be looked on as just a plain vanilla clinic that's the same as the one down the road that also offers a chiropody appointment, but for 20 quid less or 15 quid less, because it's not the same comparison. And lastly, what I'd say is that we need to, people take you at your own appraisal. So if you essentially project an air that I am not a commodity, I am not the same as everyone else, I stand apart for these reasons, and you project that air all of the time in everything you do and how you're dressed and how your clinic appears, that also will, that confidence will be expressed.
Jeff Jackson in the house. Hi Jeff, how's things?
Someone that's different to any clinic I've been to before. Last thing I haven't put in there would be marketing. So if you can market yourself well,
I'm going to be on in a couple of minutes, so
cleverly,
keep listening.
Clever marketing, you will make yourself stand apart to all of the other businesses who are all doing the same thing. It's about standing out from the crowd and not looking like everyone else. So if you look around you and all your competitors are doing something, you should be doing something different to make yourself stand apart. So you just have to kind of believe in yourself. And we are really, I believe podiatrists are excellent medical clinicians. And I just feel that sometimes we as a profession don't project that enough. We don't make ourselves stand out enough from other medics. And by doing so, making ourselves less of a commodity, you'll end up with a more successful, more profitable.
Jeff Jackson, the barbecue king of the United States.
For you, the clinic owner.
Good man, Jeff. Okay, here we go. Change the view now.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Yeah, why do you think we're so poor at marketing ourselves? Where does that stem from, do you think? Sorry, I was thinking, why are we so poor at marketing ourselves? Where does he think that stems from?
I think what happens is we come out of college, and when we're in college, what we're told is that really all you need to be successful is to be good clinically. And then we come out and we realize I'm really good clinically, but that doesn't turn into necessarily turn into sufficient success financially for most clinic owners. I mean, it should be a given that we should be good clinically. So we're not really sure what to do. So what we do is we look around what everyone else is doing, and we tend to just copy what everyone else is doing. And I think the same would be true of even people pick prices. So when I talk to people and I say, well, why did you pick a price? They'll say, well, I looked at everyone else is charging, and I kind of wanted to be in the middle.
Everybody every year does the every year ring around.
So what we tend to do, and it's not just us, it's in all business, we follow the crowd.
What the hell is this connection? And again, everybody can hear me okay? Listening, somebody gives me a thumbs up. This is coming through crystal clear.
Clinics struggling.
You're dipping there slightly.
Following each other, and you're better off.
And Facebook people, you can hear me crystal clear. It's all good. No hiss, no interruption now.
Yes, we know. Logan's breaking up. I'm going to move just Logan. Just while you're sorting the voice over there, because we're losing you slightly there. I'll just move on to Justin, and then maybe we can answer these questions after. Justin, do you want to take over there?
Yeah, no. I mean, Lorcan raised some very good points, and everybody every year does that ring around to see what everybody else is charging?
I would say that when it comes to marketing, we tend to ignore the talent.
Okay, I can still hear Larkin coming through. Okay, but I'll just keep going. So, what I want to talk about, is pricing.
Ignore marketing, and we tend to kind of do it.
Okay? Are we okay now?
I'm dipping, okay. We tend to ignore marketing.
But I can still hear him coming through, even though his lips aren't moving.
Shush, Morgan, shush, we can't hear you.
I don't. Okay, right. I think that's settled now. Okay, we're going to talk about pricing. Yeah, see, as Lorcan said, normal thing is everybody does the ring around every year.
Okay.
Emily's lips aren't moving now, and she's speaking. Okay. We're good to go now. Okay, everybody does the yearly ring around, see what everybody else is charging, and puts their price up a couple of euros, a couple of dollars, whatever it is. But what I want to talk about really is today, why does your practice exist? Is it to earn a profit, or is it to serve a practice or serve a purpose? Serve a purpose for you as an owner, for your patients, for your family, and for your society and as a general. The conventional view is exclusively profit. That's not as narrow-minded as it sounds. Because to earn a profit, your business has to be forced to sort of care about the society and the patients that you deal with. Your practice has to be able to provide high quality patient service or products, or else your patients will stop buying. And it's how you treat, yourself as an employee of the practice and everybody else, your employees. If you can treat them well or not, and you want to be able to work in it and want to be happy. So, leading economist Morgan Friedman once famously wrote that, the social responsibility of a practice is to increase profit. Okay? So, just to head out in the land of profit, and get all those other decisions right. But, this theory assumes that you can calculate the effect of your ethical behavior that it has on your profits. And in your practice, you can't ever reduce every decision to a mathematical calculation. Take Marks and Spencer's in the High Street store. Okay, everybody knows them. 1930s, their former chairman, they had a policy. All the management went round the shops all the time, every week, to see what was going on with their employees and the people who are coming into the shop. And one day he's in there and he's walking around, and one of us sees one of the shop assistants faints, and he's really obviously quite concerned. And he finds out her husband's unemployed. She's not eating so that she can have enough money to feed the family. So the very next week, what they do is they introduce free meals at a nominal price for the employees. But why did he do this? So the economist Milton Friedman would say to do a calculation. If you provide a nutritious meal, more workers aren't going to faint. You're going to make more money because obviously there's no way you can calculate that you can make more. So it's certain things that you do in your practice, and you can't, it goes above and beyond. They're not just providing meals; they care about their workers. And Marks and Spencer's has an excellent reputation for sort of quality that goes above and beyond normal businesses, and that in turn then leads to profit. So that's the second view, which is called corporate social responsibility. And that might be a bit sort of tree huggy and out of touch with what's happening in your podiatry practice, but it's not actually too different from the view it agrees with first, that the earlier view that profit is good, but profit is only a byproduct. It's not the end goal. Okay. Your practice exists to serve a purpose, to make products that and provide treatments that transform your patients' lives for the better, to provide you and your employees, okay, with a healthy and enriching workplace to work, and you need to want to preserve that environment for the future. So even if you can't calculate the bottom line impact of doing so, and if you do that, it's sort of, if you do things like that, your profits will come naturally. So just serve a purpose, and the profits will follow. But a nice idea if it were true. But is there any evidence to sort of say that? And there has been sort of extension research that's looked at whether being socially responsible in your practice, whether that practice will actually sort of perform better, and it doesn't take away from your bottom line. But how would you measure this sort of social responsibility? So all the research has been around employees' well-being, and some choose to look, some of the research choose to look as you as yourself, as your well-being, and that's not the only dimension that's sort of important. But how the patients that you have, the nice environment that you can work in, all these things sort of depend on you being able to bring a certain amount of profit and excess money into your practice. So when the researchers looked at the data, and they did all this for the 100 best companies in the world. It's published every year. It's been published for the last 20, 30 years in Fortune magazine in the UK and stuff. So there's tons of data that goes way back, and looks not only at the pay as benefits for you in a practice, but as I get that environment that you work in, the camaraderie with your colleagues, and all those other sort of factors. So, but how do they know that the profit in the practices is down to the well-being? It could just be from you just look into a business that is doing really well and performs really well, and there can be sort of multiple factors in it. So the researchers, they crunched all the numbers and tests, and they tested their ideas, and it suggests that, again, as employees, well, if you as an employee of your practice, if you've got improved well-being, that gives you good sort of performance. It's rather than how the practice performs, which allows you allowing you to practice, bringing the money in to spend on your sort of self and your well-being. So what did they find? In these research, they found that the 100 best companies, they outperformed the other companies, but because they treated themselves better. So you need money and you need profit coming into your practice, so that you're able to treat yourself better. And this is fundamentally should change, how we can think about working in a sort of practice. I might think it isn't obvious that, that you might think it isn't it obvious that, if your practice is doing better, you'll be happier. But, when you're working in it, sometimes that isn't as obvious to you, because, the way you treat yourself, or if you need to treat yourself better, there's a cost to that. If you want to go on and be able to take time off to go on courses, you want to buy the right sort of equipment for your practice, you want to spend time with your sort of family and sort of friends, there's a cost to this. So if you work in a practice where we can only pay ourselves, as little as possible, if there's no money left in the practice after you take all your rent and your rates and your wages and all the other sort of costs associated with it, if there's very little sort of profit or no money left in it, then how are you going to actually then sort of take that time to invest in yourself? So if you treat yourself well and you've actually got profit, that in the practice, that pays off in terms of practice value. If you pay yourself better than average, provide a salary you can live on and thrive on, this gives you a positive environment with great benefits. You're able to hire better people, they'll stay longer, you'll be more efficient, so will they. You can take time to spend with your family, never miss events. Arrange your practice then so that it actually works for you, that you're not working for it. These are all fundamental sort of things that we should be doing. Other research shows that different dimensions of social responsibility also improve your practice values. This is sort of freeing. It means as an owner manager of the practice, we can act responsibility, and to do things can certainly have a do things for intrinsic sort of value of your practice, because even though their sort of financial rewards are not the motive for acting ethically, they typically manifest in that way. Caring about your patients is not at the expense of profit. Okay, it actually supports profit. So you can do good, you can do well, practice is socially responsible, to you as a worker in it, and pays off, and pays you higher returns, and there's a lot of practices out there that that have figured this out, and as I say, they get the practice to work for them rather than working in it. And this is a great sort of well-being sort of strategy that they have. So this might be sort of we may want to suggest a new way of thinking. Some of the most important decisions of your practices are your practice's value, your customer culture, your patient's loyalty, the way that you can innovate in your practice to provide different service. And sometimes that's all can't be captured in the actual financial numbers. So we need to look really beyond sort of short-term quantitative sort of things that you can sort of calculate in the bottom line, and knowing your profit and loss and knowing all your numbers and knowing your all these things are vitally important. But also the times you will need to look at really what the sort of the qualitative things are in their practice. And just because you can't quantify social responsibility, the time and sort of value that you have of your families means it doesn't mean it can't be measured. You can sort of try and gloss over these things in the practice that in favor of actually sort of crunching numbers, but because most practices ignore their financial numbers and the information, we tend to sort of not think about long-term value, sort of short-term sort of return. So because it takes this money to invest in yourself, your training, your personal development for you and others in your practice, and the benefits that will give you. So it's the responsibility. So it's your responsibility, really, as a practice owner, really to support yourself and others, and taking a long-term view about this, so that more money's coming into your practice, giving you more profit. It allows you time to think of long-term value rather than short-term. All practices tend to be living on a week or two of money coming in, and that's so. This allows you to help to improve the sort of social responsibility that we talked about, but not at the expense of your patients. So back to my original question: why does your practice exist? Is it to earn profits, or is it to serve a purpose for you as an owner, as a business owner, for your patients, for the people you employ, for your staff, for your family? So the answer is yes. Yeah, but how can you answer yes to a multiple choice question? Because it's not multiple choice. It's not either one or the other. It's not a zero sum. It's both. Your practice exists to serve a purpose. By doing so, and only doing so, if it generates profits in the long term, and to reach and land the profits, okay, you need to have that purpose in your practice. So that's what it's all about. So I'm not going to sort of tell you, how you can reach put your profits up, but you say it's all about what's the purpose of your practice, and the profits, and when you're doing right and you're able to invest in yourself, you can do the right thing. So if you're on very, very small margins, or you're ringing around and it's only you're a quid different than anybody else, and you're worried now that in what's going to sort of come over the next months and years is going to be, that's going to affect you and what the fees that you can think you can charge. I mean, it's just, that's not the reality that we should be living in. Okay, so that's what I'm going to leave that with this evening.
Justin, are you brave enough to put a figure on something?
Double them. Double it. Yeah. I'm talking to practices in the UK charging 28 quid. Worried about putting it up a fiver. But yet she tells me that the practice at 6 or 8 miles down the road charges 60. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting to think of it as because I think as pods kind of thing, because we're clinicians. I did as well when I was in private practice. I'm a service to patients rather than thinking it's actually a business model and changing your mindset to that.
You haven't a clue. Nobody has a clue about business. We're just really good technicians at what we do, and what we do is, This is stealing from what Jonathan Small talked about a couple of weeks ago. We make it look really, really easy because we're extremely good at what we do. Okay? And whether that means that we, in our minds, we don't value what we do. You don't value yourself. You don't have the profit. People think profit's a dirty word. Okay? There's practices in Dublin who are not reopening. There's physio practices in Galway who are not reopening. In the UK, in South Africa, patient numbers in Queensland, Australia are down 30-40%. They didn't really have a lockdown here. I mean, it's it's a business. If you don't have the profit, you don't have the money, you're not fucking reopening, right? You need the long-term business fundamentals. Yeah. Joe's smiling. Joe, I'll tell you who's closing down in Dublin. He's got 3 practices and he can't see how he's going to actually reopen. He just thinks there's not the value there. And that's because the primary business fundamentals weren't there. There wasn't enough profit in it to carry him through this. All practices have a very, very small buffer. And you've heard me talk before about, the couple of days before Christmas, at the end of the staff party, when I paid all the money out, and I like 300 or 400 quid to get us from the 23rd of December to the 1st of January, with no more fees coming in, and rent due, and wages due, and all those other things. And I promise, because I've done all this. I'm practicing in London, hadn't a clue. Having a clue. Most people haven't. You're not running the business. You just, you don't value themselves. And I promised myself then at the end of that time that for me and for my family, that I wouldn't put myself into that position again. So I went on. So I stopped. Well, as well as doing my Achilles course and mobilization courses and that sort of stuff, I am also invested in myself to learn actually about Google AdWords, about newspaper, about how words in the right order on your website, how you actually talk to patients and make those sort of fundamental changes, right? We're not talking technical jargon at them that they don't understand. They want the outcome. They want to see what the value is that you can give to them. That's what but we need to learn all this and go on courses and get mentors and get the best advice for this. And when you have that money and you can invest in yourself to develop like that, it's a so much better place to work in. It really is. I mean, it's a complete night and day. I never again was sitting the couple of days before Christmas wondering how I was going to, whether Santa would be able to come or not. Yeah, and it gets that fucking serious. Yeah, and so a lot of practices will just go, oh, sure. And again, the worrying thing a little bit is that we're just going to reopen back up and it's all going to be good. Yeah, big shock coming. Okay, so but that's it. Put it up. Put your prices up. Okay, so you're laughing about Dublin. Okay. I worked with a practice in where we took over, and they doubled the profits. They doubled the fee in London, and don't tell me it can't work anywhere because businesses, practices and stuff. They doubled the fee, and they lost 17% of their patients. That was it. Dave James talked about last week. He put 20 quid on or something or other and lost like 2 patients. But then like a year or 2 later, he put a quid on and had a load of complaints. As Lorcan was saying, you need to, you want to attract the patients who value you, who want to pay for the health. You don't want to be people who are price shopping you, because you will be price shopped. So in their brain, if somebody phones up a clinic in Dublin tomorrow, wants an appointment, and somebody's 40 quid, and somebody's 42 quid, and somebody's 45, there's not really much, as Lorcan says, differentiation between the practices. What are they going to choose? They phone my clinic and it's 75 or 85. In their mind, they're like, how can he charge so much more? What is it about them that he values himself and makes him different? And as Lorcan said, then when you have that, then there are people who want to pay for quality. You don't buy the cheapest phone. You don't go on the cheapest holiday. Nobody's driving the cheapest car, not if they can. Now, there are patients out there who cannot afford it. And again, financial stuff coming won't be able to afford your fees. But as Lorcan says, you don't want to, the person who price shops you is the person who's not going to turn up, not going to do their exercises, going to fucking DNA all the time. There's going to be a pain in the ass in your clinic. You want the highly motivated person who's prepared to pay you your value, right? And then that gives you the profit and reinvest in yourself. They're more involved and engaged. They turn up, they do what you ask them, right? And guess what? They stay and they pay and they refer. And that's what you want in your practice. You don't want, oh Jesus, I can get it cheaper a quid down the street, you know. Fucking do one, mate. See ya. There's enough people out there who are prepared to pay it. You've all seen it. I've done it. The practices around the corner here in the dock are going, how can he charge more? Anybody who's charging more, you know, it's only up here that you can't charge more. Just have the balls to fucking do it. And it opens a whole new world. Yeah, you're not living in the world of, oh dear, scarcity. You live in the world of abundance. You know, it's a so much better place. I'll tell you, from experience, it's so much better place to work in. Put your prices up. That's it.
Justin, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to mute you.
No worries.
Thank you.
That's it. Put your prices
Mark,
up. That's what it's all about.
There's loads of questions coming in, and we will answer all those after Mark has spoken.
Connor Woods, down the way.
But keep answering the questions, and we'll go through all those in a minute. Okay. Mark, I'm going to go over to you. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Emily. Thanks very much for having me on. Just myself, I work with my brother. We have a few clinics in Dublin, and at the moment we've opened last week, reopened, and hopefully everybody's either in the process of getting back to work or looking forward to getting back to work.
How was that, Connor Woods? Is
in terms
it okay?
of PPE and the practicalities of it, we have
Hopefully it didn't swear too much.
A receptionist and a podiatrist working, and then in another clinic, just a podiatrist on their own. So hopefully this will be kind of catering to a lot of people, just in terms of how we're operating. So obviously it's different. We're getting back, but it's kind of a relative normality. So in terms of patients, we obviously for routine patients we have a backlog. A lot of people are in plans for MSK, waiting to get in, wanting to get back in. But in terms of PPE wise and being conscious of COVID-19, everything that's going on, the kind of changes have started from when before the patient appears in the clinic. So when they make their appointment, the receptionist will be talking to them, asking them if they have any symptoms. So we're not going to be treating any positive or possibly positive COVID patients. So it starts with the receptionist asking, have they any symptoms, high temperature, shortness of breath, breathing difficulties or cough, things like that, to basically triage who we have coming through. Once they've confirmed that, we're advising them just to arrive exactly on the time of their appointments, so not to come too early.
Literally a mic drop.
Also asking them on the phone to wear a mask if they have one. And last week when I was working, I'd say like 80-95% of patients all had masks. So it's definitely a good thing to advise them to wear a mask. A lot of them are conscious of it. Some patients, routine patients who are coming into me have been cocooning, said they haven't been out of the house since March, so you can be pretty safe in the fact that they're not even seeing their children, their grandchildren, so there's no need for us to be kind of worrying about those type of patients if they are positive or a risk of infection. So once the receptionist has gone through all that with them, we then send them. And we've also mentioned, please avoid waiting in the waiting room, please wear a mask if you have one, so that they're kind of at ease and not kind of heavy. They'll maximum of 2 people in the clinic. So in order to facilitate social distancing, our receptionist has a perspex screen up in front of her and also around her. We had a friend of mine came in, he has a company Senate.
Okay.
All the perspex screens, they're doing I think kind of generic ones or custom made ones, so you can have them specifically fit to your desk. And then we have hand sanitizer. They also do hand sanitizing stations, so we're asking all the patients to use the hand sanitization before they come in, or if you want, you can get them to wash their hands when they come into the room. All our waiting rooms are cleared of any non-essential materials, so we've no magazines, we've nothing else apart from hand sanitizer. We've removed a lot of the chairs, so we've one chair at one end of the clinic room, one at the other, in case there are some patients who aren't able to arrive bang on time for whatever reason, so we can accommodate them as well. We have vinyl stickers on the floor telling them where to go, which line to sit behind, just so there's no confusion. And if anybody kind of walks in off the street looking to make an appointment, our receptionist is telling them to go outside, get the phone number off the front of the clinic and to ring to make an appointment. So it's working pretty well. A lot of patients who might come early, some of them are sitting out inside in their car and ringing the receptionist saying, is it okay to come in now, so we can bring them in, just minimizing any contact with anybody else. And we're also asking them to pay by card if possible, just to minimize the use of cash and any kind of possible transmission or anything like that. So in terms of the treatment itself, as I was saying, most of the patients are wearing masks, which is minimizing any kind of transmission of droplets with coronavirus or anything that could be possible, even though we're quizzing them beforehand. The podiatrists are also wearing a mask, gloves, disposable apron, and eyewear. So it's kind of been, we got these visors, which is non-essential, but it kind of makes the patient feel a bit more comfortable, and it provides extra protection for us. The visors there's varying issues with the visors. So some of them can be so close to your face that when you're wearing the mask, you're getting condensation, steams up, can be quite warm, claustrophobic. So I actually came across a new supplier that they have a kind of a peaked band that comes around your head, and the visor clips in on the front, so it's a bit further from your face. It's just been approved by the National Butcher Association, so they're all using them. They don't have a website for it yet, but on Tuesday it's going to be live, so I can post that. It seems a lot better in that you get 5 different visors that you can peel on and off each time, sterilize them, and then use them again, rather than the ones that are close to your face that are steaming up, because they have an anti-fog solution on them. So we had a sample of that, and it seems really good. So then, in terms of when you're wearing all the PPE, and in particular I found the aprons, you can get very warm. So in the clinic I'm in, I have the window open just to get a little bit of fresh air in. Another one, we're lucky enough to have an extractor fan that's just sort of cooling, pulling the air out of the clinic. And then once the patient leaves, we just clean everything down with disinfecting wipes. We just, on some of the later disinfecting wipes we have, it actually says on them that they can't. Extra careful in terms of, I know everybody uses hygiene standards in a routine way, but once the patient leaves, they leave out through the clinic. They kind of make their way straight out through the clinic. In terms of where we have a receptionist, everything is operating as normal in terms of normal patient times for appointments, as the receptionist is able to deal with appointments. And where the receptionist isn't operating, we've extended the appointments just to give an extra bit of time, so that when patients are coming in, we are ready to greet them and bring them straight through, rather than sitting in the waiting room. So that's how we've been operating at the moment.
Perfect. Okay, that's a really in-depth way of what you've done through clinic kind of thing. Have you had any problems getting PPE at all, Mark?
Well, we've had issues with them. The quantities that we order arriving when they're supposed to arrive, things coming later than they should. But with the aprons, I was asking a pharmacist, and the pharmacist advised me the best way to do it was through Musgraves, because they do a lot of sort of catering, and they
Mickey
have
McGarty,
a lot of
how's it going, chap?
managed to get them somewhere else as well.
How are you, Mick?
Okay, perfect. So I think a lot of the PPE, I put a document up on the Facebook page there of people who are providing this kind of thing, but a lot of it's thinking outside the box slightly and searching yourself for other alternative sources rather than your main podiatry suppliers, because everybody's having trouble supply and demand at the moment. Like there's 28 million masks going to the NHS every week from the Chinese containers coming in, and then the HSC on top of that as well. So they get first
Hello, Ian
priority,
Riley.
obviously.
Welcome.
Before
We're going to be putting a recording of this up on my
with.
social stuff later on, so you'll be able to
Gloves have
rewatch
gone
when
very
you've missed
expensive at the moment,
anything.
and aprons. Hopefully things will pan out as deliveries get more. We'll see. Okay, I just want to go back through some of the questions here.
Yeah, just one of the questions that's come through, Emily, is that it depends. You know, somebody said, Catherine's there. It definitely depends on your geographical location and employment. Bullshit. I'm getting my car service next week. It's the same price here as it's the same price in, you know, wherever you are in the country. Your Apple sell your iPhones the same price everywhere in the UK and Ireland and Europe and the States. It doesn't matter what the demographics are. It's that's not that's not how business works. You just think it is. That's just not how things work. It's, you know, other companies, other firms, how can they charge the same anywhere? You know, whether you live in a socio-economic deprived area, you're still, if you buy your iPhone, it's still the same price. They're not discounting. You know, and you know, if you are thinking that you should be discounting or doing less because people can't afford to pay, you're just, again, what I talked about earlier, how can you then invest in yourself and invest in your practice, and you know, it's got to work for you. Yeah. So
okay, let's just go through some of these questions. Lorcan, at the beginning there was Catherine dressed to impress, but at the moment with our challenges, it is not practical to disinfect.
All right, hold on.
Do you want to comment on some of those?
Oh, now you can see it. Sorry about that. It fell on the floor. We're back now.
I know they're looking, can hear me.
Michael Tracy. Paddy. Well, Paddy, how's things in Cardiff about? Oh my God, the sound is shit.
Now at the moment,
Look, it's atrocious.
I was asking Lorcan there to type picture five because we can't hear him.
Okay, that's, you know. But it's choppy, Lorcan.
Okay, so I'm just asking Lorcan there to type his reply to you there, Catherine, because we can't hear him. Would you mind doing that, Lorcan?
You hear me?
Yeah, no, we can't hear you at all. It's really bad.
Okay, so that's pretty much about it. You know, we're going to, there'll be a few questions on here now. So I mean, I'll have this up on my Facebook and stuff, and ask me any questions and things. And so yeah, we're going to leave them to it. And thanks for watching.
We'll speak
to you soon. Take it easy, Mick. Take it easy, Paddy.
They're asked once again when they come in.
And Sarah Jane.
There's actually
thanks for watching.
There's a poster.
And Stuart, Cal McGee was watching.
Poster. It's like know the signs, and it's in yellow, and there's a list of the symptoms. So I forgot to say when they come in, they're also asked Janet, again if they have any of the symptoms, and then we go ahead.
Everybody, thanks very much. This will be up on social media later on. Any questions, just ask me.
Like if 24 hours, if they don't have it on the day, then 24 hours before.
We'll talk soon. Take care.